the last part is the excess reactants. Alright, now this is actually kind of simple to do as well. All of these calculations are not too bad. The biggest thing is trying to determine whether or not you have a limiting reactant or not.
Staff and students, please excuse the interruption. At this point, I need leadership students that are underclassmen that are working the senior breakfast to come down to the cafeteria. Only underclassmen leadership students are to come down right now.
After we get done with this. So we have S2 plus 4Cl2 is going to yield 4 S2Cl2s. And we determined that we had 1.4104 moles of chlorine, and that was what was going to dominate everything. Now, to figure out the excess, the first calculation that we have to do is we have to go moles to moles. So we have to go moles of Cl2 to actual moles of S8 that will react. So we're going to set this up. 1.4104 moles of S2. And so I'm going to need the moles of S2 and the moles, or that's Cl2, sorry, of Cl2, and that's S2. So how many moles, what's the mole ratio? How many moles of sulfur and how many moles of chlorine? Look at the equation. What's the coefficient on sulfur? The coefficient is 1. What's the coefficient on chlorine? The coefficient is 4. So, what do we do? Besides looking at our phones and typing and doing all sorts of stuff. What do I do with the 1.4104 and the 4? Divide. So, divide that by 4, and I get 0.3526 moles of S8. This is going to represent the number of moles that actually react. Before the reaction is stopped, I'm only going to end up using 0.3526 moles. So now, the next one is going to be the moles of S8. I'm going to get the mass of S8. So basically for the mass, I have to do 8 times the mole, or the molar mass of one sulfur, which is what, 32.07? So 8 times 32.07, 256.56. So 256.56 grams per mole. That's what I'm going to be using there. So I'm going to use this number up here. I'm going to use the 0.3526 moles of sulfur. And I'm going to say 1 mole of sulfur, S8, is going to give me how many grams? 256.56 grams of S8. Now, what do I do with these two numbers? They're both in the top, so what do we do? Multiply. So I'll take the 256.56 times 0.3526, and it ends up being 90.46 grams of S8. This is the amount that actually reacts. Now, how much did we start with? Way back in the beginning of the problem, how much did we start with? We started with 200 grams. How much did we actually use? How much did we just calculate that we should use? 90.46 grams. Now, how are we going to figure out how much is left over? Subtract. So I'm going to take 200, subtract off that amount.
Staff and students, excuse this interruption as well. At this point, seniors, if you have paid for senior breakfast, please come on down to the cafeteria. Seniors, if you have paid for senior breakfast, please come on down to the cafeteria.
So we have 109.54 grams of S8 in excess, which means it's left over. After the reaction stops. So this ends up being just a mole to mole and then a mole to mass situation.